Okay, I am Tyler Berg, and this is my speech for online speech class, my informative speech, and this is my audience. I don't have the full 8 members, but this is all I could get at this point. So, on that note, I will begin. Okay, let me just get the camera situated here. Okay, let's see. That should be pretty good, right? Right there. Okay. All right, so basically, since the beginning of time, um, people have always probably been wondering what it would be like if we were able to cure all diseases, never age, never die, um, and that's a reality that could come to be with through stem cells. Stem cell research is a fairly untouched part of science. It hasn't really been fully researched, um, but it has unlimited potential, and I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so basically at the very core, there are two types of stem cells. There are embryonic and adult. Embryonic are basically the stem cells uh, that you hear about probably in the news. They are pretty pretty controversial. Basically, to to get embryonic stem cells, you do have to extract them from a human fetus, so an embryo. It does kill the embryo in the process. So a little bit frowned upon. A lot of people do not agree with it. Highly controversial. The other type of stem cell is the adult stem cell. Much more accepted. It does not. You actually retrieve it from a grown human being. It does not kill them. It's completely harmless. It does a lot of the same things, but just not quite as flexible. Um, and that's what I'm going to talk about now is the plasticity of the cells. The embryonic stem cells are extremely flexible in the fact that they can become pretty much any tissue in the body. They can become anything. You inject them into the area where you want them to grow, and they will divide continuously, and they will become whichever tissue is in that area. So very, very useful. Adult stem cells are a little bit different. You generally have to use them in the area where you would retrieve them. So say you retrieve them from a human liver, they would most likely become liver cells. The main source for stem cells um, has pretty much always been a laboratory. A lot of the stem cells are retrieved from fetuses that are born in or conceived in a petri dish in a laboratory, and this is pretty controversial. They are grown for the sole sake of basically harvesting, so pretty controversial. Um, the locations of where you can find stem cells, that it's pretty much a one common spot in an embryo, just in the embryo itself, just kind of right in one area. The adult stem cells are more varied. They can be found in every portion of the human body. They are not limited to any certain area, so they can be hard to track down, even though they're so widespread. The main thing about stem cell research is the potential cures that it could bring. It has pretty much limitless potential. It could, for example, cure someone with cancer potentially. After chemotherapy, there is usually a lot of radiation damage to the tissues in the patient's body, um, and they could technically, potentially insert stem cells into the affected regions, and they would multiply and repair the affected tissue, which is crazy, really cool. Um, so it has so much potential as a cure. I kind of talked about it a little bit already. The ethics of the stem cells, it's very much in question. The ethics of the embryonic stem cells, that's very much in question. It's considered extremely unethical to kill a human to get these cells that are going to be used for study. Um, so that is always an issue. The adult stem cells are much more ethical. They do not involve any killing of a human. They are just not as flexible, so they're not as useful to the research. Um, the other main thing besides the disease curing is the topic of cloning. It seems like such a sci-fi thing, um, but potentially it could happen with stem cells. Stem cells could be used to create whole organs or whole parts of human beings, and that is crazy. It's totally possible though, and they could a doctor could pretty much piece together a human being potentially, which it would basically be like Frankenstein. Um, but the thing about that is that it could be a great gift or it could be a great curse. The problem would be that if if that fell in the wrong hands, it could be an incredibly dangerous situation if the wrong hands got on that type of technology. Um, but along those lines, the organ cloning is a very good possibility. That's something that could be very beneficial. Potentially, a doctor could clone a person's organs and could store them away. And if that person ever has any potential problems, any possible problems, say they need a liver replaced or something, they could take that liver out of the organ bank and they could replace it, and the person would be fine. So very cool possibility. Um, ultimately, with all things, there are disadvantages. The main disadvantage, obviously, is the ethical concerns. It can be considered very unethical to kill the embryo to gain the stem cells. Another big thing is rejection. Just like any foreign object in the body, say if you were to grow an organ, a human organ, and then transplant it into somebody, the main problem would be the body rejecting the foreign tissue. And that is something that could maybe be rectified with medication uh, if they were to create something like that. So it's a possibility. The other thing is it's very difficult to obtain, obviously, because it's controversial to get the embryonic stem cells. Adult stem cells are also hard to find, even though they're so widespread throughout the body. Um, Also, lack of funding. That's a huge thing. The research hasn't gotten the funding that it deserves. It has deserved much greater funding. Obama is pretty pro stem cell research. He actually lifted a ban on it just in 2009. So it could begin to be a much more research thing, which is awesome. Um, so basically, stem cells are an incredible discovery. They have so much limitless potential. Um, from curing diseases to cloning humans to stopping death itself, there's truly limitless potential.